champ is here. I must be the greatest. The champ is here.
I'm going to continue to stand with the people.
The champ is here.
I will not lose.
I'm a bad man. I shook up the world.
Yes, welcome. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you were here with we. My name is EJ, and I got my man,
MH.
Yes, he is the DB of the show. We are Black in Sports, giving a voice to the culture that won't shut up and dribble. And today, we're bringing you back inside the locker room, talk about topics in and around the game. MH, you ready to do this?
Yes, sir.
Man, so MLB All-Star Weekend's coming up, and they've done the votes, and they're getting ready to take that little All-Star break that usually happens in July. And the MLB kind of really has been pushing some changes, right? Like they, just recently are been pushing to get the Negro Leagues numbers and stats into the official books, because they were, one of the official leagues and those numbers did matter. And they're just really kind of working on different things. They do on the Jackie Robinson Day for opening day where everybody's wearing the 42. And one of the recent things that they're adding inside the mix, man, is that the game at Rickwood. And that game just recently happened, man, and I think we got a quick little history lesson for those that weren't ready.
Yeah, Rickwood Field, home of the Black Barons in Birmingham, Alabama. History with the field, obviously, and then we'll get into that. And
definitely a lot of fields, right?
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of historians in the game and pillars of athletes passed through the organization and played ball on the field. So
that's kind of, you definitely mentioned it was the home of the Birmingham, of the, what was it? What's the Negro League again? The Black Barons? Black Barons, yep. So, that was kind of like their home field, but there's, like you said, some other history, that's come through there or people that was kind of blazed that field. And then the other historical lessons that's kind of entwined in this was that, that's made Bear Bryant start integrating and getting Black football players, right? Because that used to be Alabama's home field, when they were playing some of the college football games because they wanted a bigger stadium. And, like I said, that was one of the first major league stadiums. And, especially from our known Raider days, the football was played on baseball fields at times. So it's crazy just to kind of see that kind of history come through that field.
100%. And like I said, we've mentioned the historians, not just baseball, and you mentioned as well with football that's passed through there in Alabama, what that state and area has been in our country.
Oh, yeah. And so what kind of really brought this topic up is just kind of they were celebrating. So MLB was holding a game to, celebrate or recognize what the Negro Leagues has done for baseball, and they did an MLB game to recognize that sport. And it was just kind of their first year doing it. They put some money to revitalize that field and just kind of make this one of their hopefully annual things that they do. So, the MLB had that Field of Dreams game that they do out in Iowa where they kind of go out in the cornfield and kind of recreate that. So, trying to put some pageantry and just some kind of life back into this field while also, recognizing, what the past was. And then we take a left turn, right? And a much needed left turn, right? So it was a broadcast because I don't remember if it was the day before or the day of, but, they're getting ready, to talk about this. And at this time, one of the things they're, giving honor to Willie Mays, and they have Reggie Jackson there. And he's on this forum with, all the top MLB names that so, and then Alex Rodriguez kind of leans over to him and just kind of in a loving spirit, right? You can tell you're one of the greats. I know the history because, a lot of us know the history of the sport that we play. So I know the history. Man, what is it like being back on this field? And then that's where the record stop, everything paused. People, don't do it, Miss Seeley. All of that kind of happened, So what was your first and we're not going to play it because it is something we want you, if you didn't hear about it, want you to go back and see the whole YouTube clip. And we'll put that YouTube clip in our show notes. But man, what was the first kind of reaction that you got, man, from hearing it? Unless you want to go a different direction, I don't want to throw that in there. But like, what was your kind of first reaction when you heard it?
No, I mean, and you did a great job of setting the stage of the atmosphere. It was, if you want to call it celebratory in nature. There are some historians of the game or just figures down the line of baseball when the set included Alex Rodriguez, Derek Jeter, David Ortiz, and they had interviews with Ken Griffey and Barry Bonds, and talking about how Barry Bonds would approach Satchel Paige, and obviously, he said Barry Bonds would stayed on brand, but
on brand,
definitely on brand. But then, as mentioned, as A-Rod did his journalism question and got a real answer. I think my initial thought was, "I'll let this ride." You know what I mean? Because we often don't get unfiltered. And I shouldn't even say that. We often don't get, unfiltered messages, right? Like, and not that anybody was filtering themselves or Reggie would filter themselves, but usually networks, and it was on Fox, usually, people kind of cover some things up and all those type of things. But they let it ride, and, shout out to them for not interrupting the moment and let him speak.
Right.
And he spoke eloquently and gave us a history lesson.
Big time.
For sure. A reminder.
Both.
And much needed.
Yeah, because I think that any story that's told is a part of history, right? And I think that's one of the major things that, when you go into this, people, you wanted to say history, but then you're like, oh no, should I back off? And like, no, it's a part of all of those segments, right? Like, it is sports history, right? Because that was a period that he went through and the things that he did in the minor leagues before he went up. That's American history, Black history, but it's also our country's history. And a lot of times, I think you kind of caught me while I was going through, setting the stage where it's like it was a celebratory thing, right? Like, that's what this game is. And it's tough sometimes because us in America, we want to celebrate things, but not talk about the bad part about why we're celebrating it, right? Like, we want to be like, hey, it's Juneteenth, everybody, it's Freedom Day, get this federal holiday.
Yeah,
but like,
paved the way. Yeah. Right.
Do you really want to have the conversation? And I think this is one of the best parts of what he did was, hopefully bringing back the conversation.
100%. It's not shocking, but it is a reminder that this, when we say history, this is not like ancient, Roman era. This is
right. What is he, like 70 something, right? Like,
his experiences are our parents' age and their peers and our grandparents. They very much lived this reality, and that's not long ago. I mean, that's not a long time ago at all.
And that's some of the stuff, right? So to be able to hear it from someone, and it's like, it's cool because he's getting into his, like, his old man, Black man stage where, like, he just I'm just telling you how it is. Like,
it is what it is.
This is what it is. Like, and, he's lived a life, done some things, and he's not had that pressure. But although it is that pressure that's like on, and like, he's not been there. So you bring him back where the trauma hit, like, what do you expect? Yeah. And like, a lot of people forget that, like, sometimes, those things are traumatizing. And then you bring me back to the scene of the crime. And then, like, I'm here walking around. Remember when, like, I couldn't eat here and you threatened my life and just like all those things. And then, he's just probably in the pageantry of everything, right? So, like, everybody celebrated, like, why we here, right? Like, y'all, we couldn't play with y'all. Like, that's why we're here. You know what I mean? Thank you for honoring me. Thank you for saying, like, hey, because that's how Alex opened it up. Like, man, hey, if it wasn't for you, the three other, because you mentioned Ortiz and Ortiz, A-Rod, and Jeter was all on the dance or all on that interview. It's like, you wouldn't be here without you. He's like, well, let me tell you what it really was.
All right.
and he was in his bag. I mean, he said nigga like twice
Yeah.
before he reverted to the N-word, but that was just because that's where like the passion came from. Like it was hitting him emotionally to where he was tearing up, and he was like sharing some of the journey. And it is like a crazy reminder when you're looking to just play a sport, right? Like, I'm just going here to play baseball, man. Y'all not letting me, it's segregated. And I'm here playing, but it was the Jim Crow South, right? So that's what we have to take people back to. And in the Jim Crow South, there was just different things that kind of went on. So when he's saying like, what was it like to be back here? He said, I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy, on no, not even my worst enemy, on no one. So at that point, it was just some hellacious times.
Yeah, 100% correct. I don't even, in some ways, it's like one of those moments where you listen to your folks or some grandparents or, as Michael Irvin would say, we're losing the recipes. Like, it's in some ways you just be quiet and listen. And like I said, I'm glad that the network allowed that to happen, allowed it to play in its fullness and its realness of it, because that's his experience. And we skip over that part of his career, over 500 home runs and Mr. October, and we see him pumping his fist rounding the bases in the Yankees uniform, and that's the part that we show. That's a very celebratory moment, and that is a part of his career. But
he's a Hall of Famer, right? Like,
he's a Hall of Famer. But
I should have said Hall of Famer Reggie Jackson when I
right.
said that's what we're talking about, right? And like he's played for those legendary teams growing up. Like I think this was the A's. I'm probably going to miss some, so don't hate. But Baltimore, you just mentioned the Yankees. But and being a 5-time, World Series champ, like all those things are a part that you celebrate. So now that he's let this, and we're going to celebrate this and talk about this next time we come to Rickwood, are we going to talk about like, let's not forget these memories that went on, like I think Rich Eisen did a great, I don't know if you saw his show or just kind of part, like so for our listeners, like I said, we're going to put definitely the interview that Reggie had, and then if you follow that, it'll pop up some other things that are correlated thanks to the algorithm. But no, there are some things that pop up, and Rich Eisen does a great job, kind of saying what we were saying in the same point. It's like, don't forget why we're celebrating this in the first place, right? And let's have the conversation, right? So his conversation, what he's talking about, some of these things are getting pulled out of our schools to where kids aren't even getting to learn about these things. So it's like a deeper message of from not only why are we celebrating this, right? Because it's remembering what would happen, right? Let's talk about that. And then what it talked about for them to play, and then go forward and saying, this is why this stuff needs to be taught and educated so we can have these conversations so it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, and what you were saying is a really reason why I love sports, and I think we both love sports, and why sports is so necessary in our country and society is that oftentimes, sports is, for lack of a better term, black and white. It's wins, losses, who's, if you got talent, you're going to play, and it's an equalizer in a lot of different ways. And sport was a big part of the changes that are happening in society. Oftentimes it's a leader of that. That's why I always joke about football players. And when I have conversations with them, I'm like, they're oftentimes the most unique people in the world, because you don't get into jobs normally where people have different backgrounds and, different upbringings and different shapes, sizes, skin colors, religions, sexual orientation, all those type of diverse situations. That's a locker room. And not a lot of people in this country can relate to those environments of working together on a common goal. So that's the power in sports. I also
and before you hold pin that.
Yeah.
And like you said, like that is the power of sports. And we saw that, I don't want to say reckoning, but kind of like revitalization of the social justice that was kind of impacting in sports in 2020. And it's so funny, like that's when we came out, like that's when we started recording. We started the show in 2020. Now, of course, we started before George Floyd, but like that was the genesis of kind of how our audience was starting to want to listen, and not only because of the title, because of what we're having to say and to get content. And a lot of we joked about like being seen, but part of this is being seen. And I think Reggie mentioned that he's like, if it wasn't for my white coaches, white managers, the people that supported them in that town, where he would have a place to live, or if the coach would not have been like, hey, if Reggie can't eat here, the whole team, get back on the bus and we all out. And I think that's the importance of like you said, one, having the conversation, and then just sports being a vehicle. Now, of course, we didn't have the camera phones and the TVs and the, just kind of like the covers like we do now. But I think that that's what we were pushing towards. And it seems to kind of being, doused down or taken away. So it was good that this kind of conversation kind of brought back that kind of language in sports or a spotlight, I would say.
For sure. And he like mentioned something towards the end of the interview, and I'll let those listen to it. But he said he wanted to fight people. He was a hothead, and we also don't really hear that part of the story as well. We the turn the other cheek part of the story is being romanticized, but he's like, yeah, if it wasn't for them, he said he would have been killed. That's what, I don't know. That was the realest part to me, and I don't want to give it away. I'll let your listeners.
No, and I mean, they still, no matter us talking about it, you still need to hear his words and how he delivered them. Mm-hmm. This is just something like maybe you go and listen to it, and then maybe come back and listen to this and see what thoughts. But that MH, bro, that hit home, bro. Because he said, like, he's a hothead, and he's like, I want to beat somebody up. He's like, and then he would have said, but then I would have been strange fruit. Like our girl named Simone said, he'd have been strange fruit hanging on an oak tree. And for him to know that, like, that would have been, that destination. And another reason why they said, like, Jackie wasn't the best, baseball player that could have went and integrated. Yeah. He had the right temperament. And that's big.
It is big. It's big and sad at the same time, right? Yeah. Because, we always talk about, and we talk about it all the time. Like we joke with Stephen A. Smith, but it doesn't. You don't represent the entire Black voice. We all don't think the same, and so for them to have to pick, or at that time to have the right player, even though he might not have been the best, it is sad too. Everybody's not the same. I get it, but that's also a sad moment. Also, and I'm not going to get into politics. It's not the necessarily the time for it. But when the campaign of previous presidents were, make America great again, I think the simple question of that is to whom. That doesn't seem that the America Reggie Jackson lived.
Didn't seem like a great time.
Didn't seem like a great time.
The man said he wouldn't wish it on anybody.
Correct. So to whom will be my question, and I'll leave it at that.
And like I said, the things he saw, and that was just he's talking about playing, right? Not to mention what was going down in that area with, like, it was the bombing of the church. That you still had the white supremacy groups that were still heavily out there patrolling and doing their kind of out of pocket things to like control and regulate what they thought was their world and not a world that we all should be living in together. So right. So it was awesome for him to have that time, and I just hope that like they shine a light on that and they kind of think about that. Like I didn't go down. Maybe that's something that we put on the Black in Sports kind of checkbox to go check out that game, of what they're doing. Because they brought like we said, they brought the celebrities. And you mentioned, having the Barry Bonds and like all the people. They brought people, and a lot of MLB people came, but what else was discussed? What education was kind of given, other than going to see some major league players, play in a revitalized field. You know what I mean? So I definitely hope, that after this, that it kind of shines some light on them to kind of make sure that the education part. Because like I said, back to Rich Eisen he said a lot of times we want to celebrate and glorify and do the pageantry stuff without having the real conversation. The U.S. likes to skip the conversation a lot of times.
Yeah, and the education piece, I would probably say a good portion of our society knows the Birmingham Barons from Michael Jordan, through his short stint with baseball. I don't even know the history behind it all. Yeah.
All right, man. But no, it was a great piece. He definitely, I hope he's okay too, though, right? Like, how is he after, right? Like, that's what we need to kind of figure out. Because, like, I just think that, going through that, it was just talking about that, good enough for him. There's also other things where he's talking about how he's been given compliments, like, on his play, where, because it's still segregation and things like that, where, he had a good game and someone's like, oh, we need a nigger boy, like him, what I'm saying, to play for our team. So it's just like going back to that, adjusting back to that. So, I definitely hope him and his family are great after that. Because like I said, that is tough to relive a moment like that.
Yeah, and that's why I always have a tough time. And I've been better since we've started this platform with some of we all go through trauma, and nobody's struggle is greater or less than anybody's. But that's when it's a reminder for me, obviously, to count my blessings. But
We will definitely.
Academy music,
Right.
But it's just like, imagine the trauma there. Like, we're not talking about missing a couple of jump shots. You can have, Reggie Jackson and a couple other stories saying, how good he played in some of these games, and this was the reality after the clocks hit zero and the last out was, made, that he had to, go back to. Like, I can only imagine the mental anguish as you have to go through day to day. And that's the reason why I will continue, on a lighter note, to champion what LeBron is doing. I'm not a huge LeBron fan, but this is not that long ago, right? And so for him to, however he was using his power, whether we agree or not, for him to give the opportunity to generations, I think that's special and necessary. And I'm going to always ride for that.
And it's good to see it, right? Because it's showing progress, right? Like, where you wouldn't see this happen for our culture, right? On as common as it happens for other cultures. And just we just posted on our social today, so you might have to, if you didn't catch the story, maybe we'll repost it. But it's just talking about how LeBron being able to give this opportunity to his son when there are not equal opportunities that are happening like this, for us versus, other cultures in the sport. So definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
man. I mean, in the same, we have things called Rooney rules just to get interviews, right? So why? No, nah. Salute, LeBron, and get your money, Bronny. Yeah.
Yes.
For real. Yeah.
So thanks. Thanks, like I said, Reggie. Thanks for all the people that were doing that interview, because they handled it great. Didn't try to cut him off, because sometimes we joke, but we're part of this media world as well, and we talk about things like, hey, if an interview kind of goes off or we say the wrong, like how to reel it in, and we talk about all those things, and they didn't do that. They didn't short them. They didn't have a technical difficulty like I just had earlier, but where they could do something to like just chop the message, edit the message. So good for them to let that ride, because we really need to hear that.
Was that finger hovering over that commercial break button though?
Right? Hey, someone is in the control room sweating like, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? So, but no, man. But like I said, in this day, somebody had the raw footage anyway, because we saw Usher's full speech off the BET Awards.
Not on the West Coast. We didn't get to see the real one on the West Coast.
I'm talking about social media. That's what I'm talking about. Like,
I got you. Oh, okay. Yeah, they edited it on the West Coast.
They edited it on the West Coast. We didn't get the full. We had to go to social. So hopefully it would have come out. Maybe somebody in his family or camp was recording it, but no, we got to see the raw footage. Live on TV. So kudos to the whole team, making sure that message got out, man. So definitely want to hear your thoughts and comments on this. We'll probably bring it up in the July live show. If any of the days have any kind of questions, we'd love to have Pops on here, to kind of share some of that stuff. So maybe we'll get some comments from him in the notes. But please share how you felt about this, or if you saw it, and if you didn't, please go see it, man. And to take us out of here, MH, man. Final thoughts.
For sure. I mean, Pops is probably. I love our that generation.
Yes,
they don't know what flights are. They just hop in the car and drive everywhere. So I'm sure Pops is going to be still on the road.
Listening.
So Pops, if you're there, man, pull over if you get tired, bro.
For sure. Don't start roll the window down, man. Don't try to blink through it, man.
There's only so much Mountain Dew can do. All right, so pull over, bro. All right, but again, another reminder to us of where we're at is to be grateful, and obviously we say we appreciate the groundwork and the foundation that has been laid for us to succeed in today's world, but it is it's a good reminder of that foundation wasn't pretty. So shout out to Reggie.
There it is. Well, hey, thank you, people, for listening. I hope you enjoyed this show. Hope it kind of shed some light on some things and just went a little deeper, man. It was definitely an important conversation that we needed to have. On the news cycle, it probably lasted maybe a day or so. So we just wanted to spend some more time and make sure that you knew about it. And I'd love to hear your comments and what you felt about it. And as we always say, man, please stay safe, practice gratitude, and know we're rooting for you.
Screaming, all us blacks got is sports and entertainment until we even.
Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Yeah. Yeah. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Look. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Spent about 2 racks on handmade new rags. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. That's everybody from sports to college class to rap.